We all know executive orders can be overturned, so I'm wondering how important it is to the president to get Congress to bring this, to pass legislation, so there are no instances like the past administration that really tried to destroy Title IX.
For Trump to have to do an executive action here, can it just be reversed by executive action if a Democrat takes over in 4 years? And that was in essence what Sage Steele asked Karoline Leavitt yesterday at the White House.
And in the seat today, we have a longtime national television broadcaster. I'm sure many of you recognized her when she came in, Sage Steele, who is now the host of an incredibly successful podcast, The Sage Steele Show. And previously, Sage was a fixture at ESPN from 2007 to 2023, primarily hosting SportsCenter, which we all know well. Before leaving the company to exercise her First Amendment rights more freely, we are honored to welcome her to the briefing room today. She will be joining the president at the big EO signing later this afternoon. I know many of you will be there as well.
Some friends of ours, Sage Steele, has been very strong on the issue. Sage, thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Great job.
So, Sage, why don't you kick us off on this very exciting day for women and girls across the country? Thank you for joining us.
It is exciting, and Karoline, thank you for welcoming people like me with a little bit of a different perspective, different background in this seat. It really does mean a lot. Thank you. Obviously, the House already passed the Protection of Women and Girls in Sports Act, which was a really big step for women and girls. So far, the Senate, as we know, has not brought it up to vote. We all know executive orders can be overturned, so I'm wondering how important it is to the president to get Congress to bring this, to pass legislation, so there are no instances like the past administration that really tried to destroy Title IX.
It's incredibly important that Congress immediately acts on this priority. I think the president is really setting the tone, making this a very immediate priority for this administration, just as he promised to do on the campaign trail. There was a new poll recently that showed the overwhelming majority of Democrats also support keeping biological men out of women's sports. And so I know the president is very excited about the bill signing that will take place at 3 o'clock this afternoon. You will hear from him more on that later, and we look forward to seeing you there, Sage.
Mike, interestingly, I did a little digging, and apparently President Trump has not had to sign an executive action banning girls from boys' sports. What do you think is going on here?
Yeah. Look, the Democrats overwhelmingly now, she said, support this move. Well, that's because they got their ass kicked in the election, and there was an awakening, I think. But, and part of this is also, look, there will be pushback, right? And going back to our earlier point, we have to be careful because they will continue to push for this, right? It's a religion for them, and they can't be dissuaded from it. But I think the importance here, whether the executive order is able to stand, whether Congress is able to take action, I think one of the important points here is it emboldens people to push back, right? The average person who has been cowed, right, for quite a while now, because anytime you opened your mouth and said, well, this doesn't make any sense, you were declared whatever, and you were pilloried out in public. So I think that the benefit here, in large part, is that it's gotten people to think, I can actually talk out loud and say how ridiculous this is.
Walter, I said you were a cultural critic up top. Is that the key part of all of this, that what has changed now is the culture, so that even if an executive order got flipped or something like that, there's just more of us, because the culture has shifted, who are just going to say no to the BS?
Well, I was thinking for a second about what Mike does, and he used the word cowed. People have been cowed. And that reminds me of a prisoners or somebody you've taken into interrogation. Your first job is to make them scared of you, to make them recognize your authority. What people are doing now is they're breaking away from that spell of respect and reverence for authority. They're starting to speak normally again. And they're starting to get used to being what they were. Notice how many times they said women and girls. Those were almost banned words. They came close to being banned words. When I would sit down and write a short story about 2 years ago, and I'd say, hello, he said, I'd go, can I really say it's a he? I'm not kidding. I was they had put such a stutter in my step. They had created that whipped dog syndrome in me. And it's hard to whip me. I can only imagine the people who it's easy to whip. and just using our freedom, using our actually natural language again, all those things is going to be really important. I absolutely agree with Mike there. It is a cultural change that is necessary and that is going to be profound and change things in the future, not a political change. They can bring in judges to say anything at this point in history, and reverse anything temporarily and so on. But if we start speaking up, if we're not as cowed by our captors, that's what's going to lead to a new way.